Ladies, welcome to the next episode of the private podcast with Barbells and Babies, which is myself, Julianne. Today we are going to chat about something that has come up a lot in the last couple of months, is something that's very, very trending on social media platforms, and that is something that women have struggled with for years upon years. We've done episodes on this and something off this previously, but today I wanted to deep dive into it a little bit more, and that is food noise and mindful eating. Because sometimes what can happen is the two cross over, that we feel by mindfully eating, that is food noise. So, what we're going to do today is distinguish between the two, give you strategies to help, and reduce the occupation and the occupying of your brain are always on food, because it's very exhausting mentally for females to constantly be thinking about that as well. So that's our focus for today. We also want to build habits that make food a little bit boring again. And that might sound, oh my God, like I want to be excited about my food. But equally, we don't want to be preoccupied with what's coming next, what food we can have, that we can't have. Guilt, no guilt around food, that does not need to come into the equation. That's what we want to do, is just build habits that make food boring again. That food is something that we need to require as fuel. And I stress that with you all the time. But it's something that shouldn't dictate our lives, and our lives should not revolve around it. So, for this first part, I want to just normalize how much food noise and a focus on food can happen when you're in a fat loss phase. It increases because number one, you're trying to do things right. Number two, there's changes to your diet all the time. And obviously, we want that to work in your favor, because you're learning about your nutrition as you go, and it's educating you on your nutrition as you learn. So that's not a failure when it comes to food noise or having a focus on your food. Calorie deficits equally heighten that awareness around food. Okay, you are eating a little bit less than your body requires to lose body fat. So sometimes, especially in the first few weeks as an adjustment, it can be difficult for you not to be thinking about food, to be thinking, how am I balancing in these calories? Is there anything that I could maybe change about my nutrition? Hence why, as well, in the program, I try to make this as straightforward as possible for you. And that's to take the thinking out of your food. That's to make it more simplistic, that you literally know what you're having, and also why we work down into a deficit. So that you're not going from eating a huge amount every single day to absolutely nothing, which is what is females are renowned for doing, going from 2,200 calories maybe on days that you're out, 3,000 even, and then you're trying to be good. It's trying to be good is 1,200, and you're so restricted it lasts all of 2 weeks. So the goal is literally to reduce the excess noise. It's not eliminating your hunger or enjoyment around food, but we want to reframe as well mindful eating. So, food noise and mindful eating, especially in the last week or so, there's been a lot of questions come up on this. Is there a crossover? Am I doing things wrong because I'm being mindful? So, mindful eating is more about like being aware and conscious of your food choices. It's eating with fewer regrets and less mental chatter. So I know a lot of females struggle with guilt around certain foods, and mindful eating is encouraged with you all to reduce that. So what we want to do is that, if you are having a chocolate bar, if you are having something that you really like to eat, that it's not a punishment, that you are consciously making a decision to have it, that it's not out of stress or annoyance or emotional eating that you've reached for this, that it's not in a state of, I'm on a binge here of food, so I'm just going to have absolutely everything in the house, that it's a conscious choice and it's part of your routine and part of your lifestyle. And that's a huge thing when it comes to mindful eating, that it is perfectly okay to have things within your diet that you like to have. Like a takeaway can be completely fine during a fat loss phase and going forward in your lifestyle. A chocolate bar, completely fine. So it's about monitoring that restriction. When you think of food noise in comparison to mindful eating, what happens there is the food noise is because you've over restricted to the point where I can't have that. I can't have these things. They're bad foods. They don't fit. There's no space in a healthy lifestyle for me to have a takeaway or a chocolate bar because that means I'm not healthy. So I need to completely eliminate that. And then that's where the food noise starts to grow. What is food noise? I suppose I've covered that a little bit with yourself there. It's that mental chatter. It's that thinking about when you've eaten your meal, what's next? What am I going to have next? What's later today? I have a meal out on Saturday night. Shit. How? I don't know if I can go. Should I eat now? Shouldn't I? Should I maybe hold off for a while? The eating decisions feel very emotional and it can be fueled by emotions, like massively fueled by emotions, that you're reaching for foods because you feel a certain way about food. And the mental drain that that takes is extremely different to being mindful about your eating habits. So, food noise is not being hungry. I have to stress that. If you are hungry and your stomach is rumbling, you should be eating. There is a huge difference between hunger and food noise, like in the sense where just because you're constantly thinking about food, that does not necessarily mean that you're hungry. It can just be that it's you're trying to do too much of a severe level of restriction. And a time where food noise can amplify is around about your cycle time, which I've put videos into the app for you all on how to balance your nutrition coming up to cycle week, how your PMS and your cravings can influence what you want to eat, and being supportive of that, even in a fat loss phase, will massively help you stay on track. Um, so the food noise is also not like you're not allowed to enjoy your food. You are 100% allowed to enjoy your food. And thinking about meals occasionally, okay? Girls, I was renowned at work in the hospital for asking everybody what they would be having for their lunch. What do you have for your lunch today? What do you have for your breakfast? And as you all may well just imagine, I just have a real passion for nutrition and I love to know what other people's eating habits are. That was always something that I was really interested in. Or I would wonder at people that would bring the same thing every week for lunch, if they really liked it or if it was just a convenient option, which can happen too. Like I am totally all for that. So it's totally fine to be thinking about meals. And if you're going for a meal out, it is totally fine to be like, oh, I'm looking forward to that. Do you know, I wonder what's on the menu. I might look up the menu beforehand, especially if you want to make a more mindful choice. And that is not food noise crossing over there. Food noise increases when your decisions become greater than your structure. So I really want to stress that sentence to you. Food noise increases when decisions become greater than structure. So, as you all know, structure is a huge, huge thing within barbells and babies. That you're having your regular meals, that you're stabilizing your blood sugar, that there are not huge gaps between your eating. And I know a lot of you would have started in the program very little breakfast, picky lunch, not having a proper dinner, really. You could be doing other things. Structure will always beat food noise in comparison to making constant decisions. Hence why there's meal plans added to your platforms as well with the knife and fork icon. On weeks when you are busy, the last thing you need to be doing is thinking about what you're going to have next or what is going to fit into my calorie base. When you have a busy week, resort to your meal plan, resort to your usuals that you know fit in, and it takes the thinking out of your food. It reduces the food noise. Another huge key habit that can help you in a fat loss phase is tracking the night before. Tracking your food the night before, using MyFitnessPal, using the Barbells and Babies app, however you are tracking your food the night before massively helps with your accountability, with your structure, and with less decisions around your food. Even if it is you literally track some of your food, it massively increases the adherence as well to your calorie deficit and reduces the food noise. So, too much flexibility too early on can actually, especially in a calorie deficit, contribute to more noise and not freedom. And that is also why I add in meal plans for you in the beginning of a program. You have that there to follow. You have a shopping list. You can just simply go purchase, buy, and follow that for the first couple of weeks. Then, as you progress in the program and progress with your knowledge around your own nutrition, it becomes easier to be more flexible around that. You have the support there to ask for questions anytime you need to ask about these things. I have also added in heaps of videos around this on the app, and they can all be found in your kettlebell icon. When you scroll down, you will see there's FAQs, or if you're in the She Achieves program or the Relentless program, you'll find more questions in there answered for yourselves around food and decision making around nights out, things like that. So it's to eliminate as many thought processes as we would go through. And that's another huge thing about coaching, which helps a lot of females and helps us all, that it takes the thinking out of it. Your calories are dictated for you, and you have more knowledge and structure around what needs to be done to make this happen. To make these goals happen, this is what needs to be done: X, Y, and Z. Small, short, simple goals each week, especially around your food. Focus in on them, get them right. The following week, then, we're able to build on that a little bit more. So, again, why does food become the focus in fat loss? I think that is so self-explanatory. But I wanted to touch on this because, of course, it is a difficult phase for every single female. There's not a female in the country that does not struggle when they have to do a calorie deficit, or they want to enter a fat loss phase and you want to lose weight as a result, because food is going to become something that we have to focus on way more than our exercise, to be honest. We need to get our nutrition right. So, from three different levels, which I'm going to share with you, one being biological, from our own point of view, from our body's point of view; psychological, number two. I feel like this has become the biggest one. And then also environmental, because of the environments that we live in. So, on a biological level, as I've mentioned already, you go into an energy deficit. You are living slightly lower than what your output is. So, that does heighten appetite signals. And you will have heard of hormones like ghrelin. If ghrelin is not controlled, that can contribute to the hunger and the thoughts around food becoming larger in your body. So, ghrelin largely we want to kind of dampen down as much as possible. And one thing that helps dampen ghrelin is protein. Again, biological, you want less margin for error and more vigilance. So, as I said, the structure will always beat decision making, always and ever beat decision making. From a psychological point of view, brings me back to decision making, but also a scarcity mindset. When we are used to eating certain foods, and again, I will have asked you all this on your forms, be as totally honest as you can when you enroll into the program as to what you eat and what you don't eat and what your diet looks like now. Because what can happen is then you go into a scarcity mindset. Oh shit, I can't have that. I can't have this anymore. And it can become the main focus of what you want constantly. And from a psychological point of view, that is amplifying the food noise and making a calorie deficit feel very restrictive. Food and nutritional deficits and getting things right is never perfect. I don't expect perfection. You're allowed to have slip ups. You're allowed to feel like, oh God, that wasn't a great week. That's okay. Do you know, like we're human beings. We have emotions. We have a psyche. We have heaps of other things going on in your lives, girls. And I'm totally aware of that as well. Saying to you all that to make food the largest focus for a fat loss phase is something that I don't want to do. And that's why food noise is something that I would be very, very conscious of with you all. We want to keep that at literally a zero level, because you all have other things to be thinking about. And then when food noise becomes quite high, it becomes quite stressful. Like a calorie deficit can feel quite stressful then. So when you just focus in on the little things that we need to change week to week, fortnight to fortnight, that makes it a bit easier. Equally, if I say to you, girls, there's nothing I need to change with your nutrition this week. It's bang on for fat loss phase. Are you tracking everything? And you say to me, yes, most of the time, and I stress about tracking everything again, then that's where I'd focus. Track the night before, keep that accountability level up, and the results follow as a result. So from a psychological point of view, which I've mentioned, good and bad food associated with guilt. This is a huge thing for females, and I've done previous episodes on this as well. There shouldn't be a food within your program or within your lifestyle that if you like to eat it, it is completely off limits, like forever. There's nothing. There is absolutely nothing in that sense. There will be times, and I have to be honest with you, there will be times where I get you to swap out certain products to push your calorie deficit further. If that's lower fat, if that's lower carb, if that's balancing protein and then bringing up your carbs, whatever it may be, we're not removing foods for life. There's no reason why you need to completely abandon all hope on foods and say, I can never have that again. And that, because that's a bad food and this food is good. If you were to overeat on broccoli every week, then that would not be good for you. Number one, you would probably never stop going to the toilet and be deficient in so many other nutrients. So, considering foods as good and bad, as much as we can, I want you to stop using that language around food. This is good for me, this is bad for me, I need to earn this, things like that. Food is literally just a fuel, and some fuels are better and I suppose fuel us for longer than other foods will fuel us for a short period, but we really like it, so we still get to have it. There's no reason to say that's a bad food. So if you are using language like that around food or around your diet, that your diet's good one day, bad the next, I want you to really remove them words from the vocabulary when it comes to food and just talk about, no, that day was hit and miss. That day was picky, but not my best. I could have picked more nutritional options on that day and I didn't because I chose to lead with my emotions. And being aware of that alone will help you a lot going forward. Then from an environmental point of view, this is huge when from a social point of view, from social media. And you will have heard me mention this last week as well. There is a reason why I do not share what I eat in a day, and this is one of them. Because just because I eat it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. There are certain recipes that I create, surely, and I'm like, this will work really well for women that are busy, they can fit it in. That's not me saying you have to eat that just because I eat it. Or if I ate chicken all week and lost weight on chicken alone, that does not mean that will work for you, okay? Everybody's base of calories is different. And I do find that quite difficult when coaches share what they eat in a day and it's all looks very, very clean, aesthetic, and looks like it takes hours to prepare. Girls, it's not realistic, and I don't even think that's what somebody eats every day. And we have to be very aware of social media as well, ads, and also the availability of food around us, okay? You're seeing a huge focus on people in supermarkets sharing this, that, and the other, demonizing labels, demonizing foods. If there's anything that you're concerned about with food wise, please do just let me know. But the majority of the time, if you've chosen a processed item over something like that takes longer to prepare, but you simply don't have the time to prepare it, then I will never judge or demonize that food, especially when the convenience option is a healthier option than perhaps a takeaway. Like, we have to be realistic about these things too, as to what fits in for your lifestyle. So, making life simple for yourself, less decisions, more structure, all these things help with food noise and equally your mindful eating. Now, this is, I suppose, bring me to the main part that I wanted to chat to you about as well is the habits that quiet the food noise. And there are a lot of them that I want to touch on, but I'm going to touch on them briefly because I want you to pick one that you feel will help you the most going forward into next week and see if it improves your relationship with food overall. So I think I have 8 habits here that I have written down to share with you all. No, I have 6. I have 6 habits. Number one, what I've just mentioned is eating predictably. So your similar meals and similar times. If you're struggling with food noise or even trying to be mindful around your fat loss phase, pick similar meals, okay? Breakfast and lunch can be the same for a few days. Your dinners can be different. Similar times is huge. Huge, huge, huge. For resetting your metabolism, for keeping a stable blood sugar, and for also avoiding them peaks and troughs in your blood sugar that leave you overwhelmed. So if you're fasting for too long, 6 to 8 hours is going to be way too long in between meals. You need to be having something substantial, like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner is sufficient for everybody that does not have diabetes. So once they're at regular intervals and they're high in protein and high in your nutrient levels, and you're staying hydrated in between, then the food noise dampens. Again, underneath that habit, I have decision fatigue can fuel obsession. So when you're constantly thinking about what you're going to have next and constantly looking for new ideas, the obsession grows around food and the food noise becomes larger. And then it becomes a week where you actually are just absolutely exhausted, overwhelmed, and you have other things going on that the decision fatigue around food gets too much, and then it becomes a binge. So making things easy for yourself. The boring meals actually can equal a more peaceful brain. And I think that's very, very true for mothers. So the predictability creates the calm and less decisions, more structure. So if that's one that you'd like to focus on for this week, just focus on the regular eating times throughout the day. Habit number 2 is building meals that actually satisfy you. So, girls, you have so many options within the program to choose from. If you want to switch up your breakfast to something different, you have 2 recipe books, you have an oat guide, and you also have the Facebook group where there are heaps of recipes of the week. I think there's 80 on there now. If you want to build out meals that you really like, you can always choose from something like that or picking one that you love and sticking with it for a few days. Because what you want every meal to tick on boxes, which will make a huge difference to how long you get between meals as well, is that your meals have protein, fibre, volume, which is, I think, the key to sustaining a fat loss phase and also sustaining hunger levels and taste. A quick one that I've always shared with you all was always protein, carbs, colour. So when you include the colour, you're including that low nutrient or you're including the low calorie, nutrient dense options, and they're giving you that volume in your food, the fiber side of things. The protein is going to be the largest portion of your food in your fat loss phase. You want that large, and you want carbohydrate in there. You need carbohydrate in there in your meals. Equally, you want it to taste good. So everybody will have their own palate as to what they like. Choose accordingly. I will have put extra options in your meal plans, your knife and fork icons. Scroll down. You can mix and match between your days. Try out different things that fit in for you, that are convenient, and you'll soon find a rhythm for yourself as well. Again, in the beginning, don't be too focused on, I need to try different things right now. You just want to get into a rhythm of, these work for me, and this is less decision making. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Number 3 is to stop negotiating with yourself. There's, especially when it comes to food, negotiations are huge that we talk about. So you might decide, oh, I'll eat later. I'll eat in an hour. Just one more bite is another one. Or just one more biscuit. When it comes to products that are harder to portion control. Again, something else I talk about a lot is the portion control. When you choose products that are already portioned out, so much easier for you. So much easier to take the thinking out of it. Even choosing bread as an option, like in the mornings or for your lunch, your carbohydrate portions are done. What you're doing then is trying to add as much volume as humanly possible to the rest of your meal with prep salad bowls and your protein source. Things like that can just stop the negotiations in your head. Packets of biscuits can be really difficult. Share packets of crisps, really difficult. Keeping it to the individual portion sizes, make it a bit easier. The third thing I'd mention is eat, stop, move on, hydrate underneath that habit. And that can be very simple for you to do, in the sense that you eat, you stop to eat, you move on from that, and you hydrate in between. Following them 4 key steps, you will find that your body finds a rhythm a lot quicker with food. When you start negotiating with yourself, like, oh, I'll just have another bar. Oh, do you know, maybe I shouldn't have had that extra chocolate bar, but I'll have one now. Or nighttime, when you're trying to curb a binge, negotiation is increasing the noise within your head. So a lot of the time it can be easier just to stop with the negotiation, stop trying to justify anything, and pre-decide your portions by using the tracker and by using MyFitnessPal or the app. Number 4 is using your anchors. And I know you will all remember when I say about anchors, protein first. If you lead your meals with protein, if you're tracking your meals with protein, you're going to find that's your anchor. And as a female, I think that's a very important anchor, because a lot of the time that's the anchor that gets dropped out your meals. Women are very easy to pick carbs as the staple. When you lead your meals with protein first, it's going to be easier. That is the 4th and final habit I would choose, because it's the most satisfying food group to include. And even on busy days when your food looks really bland, your blood sugar will remain stable to the next window of eating, and it will keep you full and fueled. Number 5, final one, is planning the enjoyment on purpose. Girls, Saturday night takeaways, night out with your friends, a meal out with your husband. These things are allowed, and plan them in. Do you know, I never, and I always stress this to you all, please do not be saying, oh, I'm going for a meal tonight, but I'm going to be good. Okay, if you're going for a meal and you never get out for food, then there's no reason why this can't be, part of your lifestyle, and also be a mindful meal that you went to and you really enjoyed. You chose something that you really liked to eat and it was absolutely unreal. And you feel, balanced coming out of it because you're like, do you know what? The rest of the week and even earlier today, my meals were absolutely fine. And that reduces not only food noise, anxiety, worry, decision fatigue about what you order, it also reduces guilt around foods. There's no need to feel guilty about them meals out. Anything like that, that is part of life, and that's a huge part of our social lives. Okay, so planned enjoyment when you know these nights are coming up and you want to enjoy it, it does create satisfaction and calm around the rest of your lifestyle. Do you know? You're having your normal meals, your normal week, it becomes a lot easier. The final thing I wanted to mention to you all. So just to finish on this note, we're going to look at what to do when you feel food noise is spiking, and if you feel it's becoming out of control, which can really happen quite quickly for us. So what you want to do is when the cravings hit, the number one thing and the number one thought that comes into your head is, why am I obsessed with the food right now? Or why would I be thinking about my next meal? Or this is good, bad, or like ugly. Sometimes it can be that you feel over restricted. So if that's how you feel, we need to look at what's in your earlier meal. And especially if it's something that's coming up quite regular. Look at, is there something in your earlier meal that's just not satisfying you? What are you having before the food noise starts to amplify? Is it getting worse because that earlier meal is just so small, not enough protein, and maybe not enough fat and carbohydrate? The volume is not there either. Sometimes it's a very, very simple tweaking it to make the difference, to manage it out. I also want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about food, if it is emotionally related. So, am I hungry? Am I bored? Is stress becoming very high? Am I tired? Girls, the tired and the stressed, I feel as a female, are two of the main triggers for me to emotionally eat. Stressed is a big one, and it is a big one for a lot of you females as well, which I am really well aware of, and also tiredness. Like, you will find the later you stay up at night, the more you start going back to the cupboards to pick. And that's why it can be the hardest time to manage. So looking at putting in them nice snacks earlier in the day, or that your last meal is that little bit bigger to curb that. What you want to do as well when food noise hits is respond accordingly to your own thoughts. Do you know, it's okay to acknowledge that I'm looking for this because I ate very little in my last meal. Will I just have it and track it, which can help sometimes, and then it can also give us an indication as to the foods that you're reaching for when your, we'll say, food noise is amplified, and also what is slightly lacking out of your meal previous. And that's what I tend to look at your nutritional diaries. So please, please, please don't stop tracking just because you feel guilt or shame around food. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at improving your diet some way, shape, or form, not making it perfect, because nobody's food is perfect. So responding accordingly is acknowledging that, and sometimes it can actually just be going to do something else. Sometimes it can also be that we have more water, or moving to a different room. Things like that can really help. Or it could just be that we need to go to bed because we're absolutely exhausted and we're trying to stay up after the kids have gone to sleep for that little bit of me time, except it's not helping. It's not helping us. Delay it with purpose is a huge thing. And I've also done a video on this previously. I'm going to add to the Facebook group as well. It's around sugar and sugar cravings, but it's a 5-step approach and it can also help you. And if you still want it, as I've just mentioned, eat it intentionally. Track it, be mindful about it, Say, I'm going to have that chocolate bar today because that's all I can fucking think about. And choose a time where you can sit down and enjoy it. Zoom out is a big one. And something I stress to you on your check ins and when you're new into the program, stop hyper focusing on one day, stop hyper focusing on one meal. Zoom out, look at the bigger picture. If you have one meal out of a week that is higher, that is a takeaway or a meal out, that is one of 21 on average meals. 1/21st. That's it. Okay, so one meal does not define your progress. Consistently per habits will, but consistency with solid, decent habits that we can fit in across the week will beat intensity on one day. So just zoom out on your week. One meal out of 21. It doesn't need to define the rest of your week, okay? Don't let that throw you off. And girls, I hope today's episode has helped. Food focus during a fat loss phase is very normal. Food noise and mindful eating are both things that can occur. And we want mindful eating. We want that to be something that changes your relationship with food, that makes it a positive one, and that also makes lifestyle change easy for the long term. Not that it's focused on over restriction, hyperfixation, and the food noise is so bloody loud we can't do anything else but think about that. That's not going to give you long term results and long term change. That's going to give you a short term quick fix that's going to rebound very, very quickly. Skills, structure will always beat decision making. Building these habits will beat food noise. It does, and give you more consistency. And the calm comes from the systems, the structure within your day to day. It's not self control. You're not self sabotaging. It's not that you're not disciplined enough. It's having a system in place for your food, for your routine, your habits, the things that work for you. Girls, I hope today has helped. If you have any questions on this episode or you found it beneficial, you liked listening to it, please do drop me over a message. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.